A standstill begins between Damien and God from afar as he looks at Damien with his pointed crossbow. Damien finally removes the arrow in his arm and throws it to the side. Damien examined God from afar's weapon and noticed its resemblance to the ones used by the Xingsan startup guys. He deduced that God from afar was a ranger class due to the crossbow and semi-automatic catapults, known for their mobility rather than raw destructive power. This realization made Damien somewhat confident that the encounter might not be as challenging as he initially thought. However, his confidence was short-lived as God from afar swiftly fired another arrow, grazing Damien's face and leaving a cut. Annoyed, God from afar reminded Damien to not move and to just listen to what he wants him to do. Damien wiped the blood from his face and realized that God from afar's speed exceeded his expectations. Judging from God from afar's agility and superior equipment, Damien estimated that he was likely at least level 30, surpassing the Xingsan guys in both skill and gear. God from afar, pleased with Damien's realization, had a smile on his face. Meanwhile, Damien received notifications that his zombification was wearing off, and he understood that God from afar had intentionally waited for the skill to expire. It became evident to Damien that he was facing a formidable opponent. God from afar acknowledged Damien's accomplishment of killing the Great Wolf King as a close-range fighter and expressed his surprised admiration. Damien wasted no time and directly asked God from afar what he wanted. In response, God from afar expressed his frustration, telling Damien if he really didn't know what he wanted. God from afar then started to claim that Damien had wasted his time and effort as the Great Wolf King was meant to be his. He demanded that Damien hand over everything he obtained from the Great Wolf King, including his equipment, and then he will let Damien live. Unfazed by the demand, Damien firmly responded with a simple nah. God from afar was taken aback by Damien's defiance, and Damien questioned whether God from afar thought he was crazy. Considering the effort he had put into killing the Great Wolf King, Damien wasn't foolish enough to give up his hard-earned rewards. God from afar, filled with anger, whispered "Die," but Damien couldn't hear it properly. God from afar shouted "Die, you bastard!" and launched countless arrows at Damien. However, Damien skillfully dodged the attack, pleased that his provocation had worked. He activated his skilled Bloody Impulse, increasing his attack and movement speed by 200%. Formulating a plan, Damien decided to consume a healing potion and activate the skills Deep Green Blessing and Flame Banquet. Damien aimed to deal as much damage as possible while God from afar was still shocked by his evasion. Smirking, Damien noticed that God from afar's attack pattern was straightforward, allowing him to easily dodge and counter. He considered God from afar a loser and observed the reload time between shots and the brief pause before each fire. Meanwhile, God from afar grew frustrated, realizing that Damien was successfully evading all his attacks as he calls him a little rat and keeping his attention fixed on him. God from afar, aware that he was at a disadvantage and seeing Damien dodge his attacks easily, voiced his concern about potentially losing the fight. He also saw the way Damien was looking at him, like a new man in prison where everybody is waiting for him to drop the soap. God from afar realizes he has to do something quick. However, in a sudden move, Damien appeared in front of him, holding a decay elixir in his hands. Damien confidently declared that he could see all of God from afar's attacks and promptly threw the elixir at his face. God from afar fell to the ground, coughing, and realized that the damage inflicted by the elixir was less than he had expected. He received notifications indicating that he had been inflicted with poison, his armor had corroded, and its durability had decreased. Frustrated, God from afar exclaimed in frustration, shouting, "What the hell is on me?" realizing that Damien had damage over time and defense debuff skills, despite being a close-range fighter. He couldn't help but wonder how Damien, initially perceived as a close-range dealer, possessed such debilitating skills. Damien, once again equipped with a decay elixir, confidently approached God from afar, warning him that he would need to soak him once more, warning him that he was gonna die if he doesn't block this attack. As Damien struck him with the elixir, another set of notifications appeared, indicating that God from afar's armor had further corroded and he was now inflicted with the burn abnormal status. Additionally, God from afar's elite hunter bow gun was destroyed. Looking at God from afar, Damien taunted him, asking if he was ready to die. Enraged, God from afar retrieved his crossbow and declared his intent to kill Damien. Damien, noticing the weapon in God from afar's hands, recognized it as a heavy hunting arbalist typically wielded by high-ranking adventurers. Damien questioned whether a ranger like God from afar, whose best skill was speed, could effectively use such a destructive weapon. Damien continued to taunt God from afar, questioning him if a ranger with his weak skills could pull off using that weapon. Fueled by anger, he wonders how long Damien can stay arrogant, for with his new weapon pointing at him, God from afar takes a shooting stance and attacked Damien with an arrow, but Damien managed to dodge the attack, narrowly avoiding harm. To his surprise, the arrow exploded upon impact, creating an unexpected blast. Confused by the unexpected nature of the attack, Damien realized that this weapon was different from the heavy hunting arbalist he was familiar with. He couldn't see the arrow, and even the system didn't detect it. Suddenly, God from afar appeared behind Damien, asking where he was looking at, catching him off guard. Damien turns around and swiftly reacted, jumping to the side and evading another arrow attack. As God from afar appeared at another location, taunting Damien, he asks if Damien has trouble seeing him, as God from afar body has smoke coming out of it. Damien deduced that God from afar's ability to become invisible was not due to an invisibility cape or potion, as those advancements were not yet possible. He concluded that it must be an exclusive skill. God from afar mocked Damien, stating that he should have used a weapon to stab him instead of relying on punches, claiming it would be the reason Damien would die. Unfazed by the taunting, Damien dismissed God from afar's words, remarking that he talked too much. God from afar retorted, saying that Damien wouldn't even have the chance to hear him speak once he was dead. As God from afar started disappearing, he provocatively urged Damien to try holding on for longer, confident that Damien would not be able to endure. Damien, now aware of God from afar's skills, including the invisible bow shot from the Dark Hunter skill set, dodged multiple arrows. He realized that these skills allowed God from afar to remain invisible while rolling on the ground, and made use of the heavy hunting arbalist much quicker. Damien understood that the key to overcoming this challenge was to end the battle swiftly. The intense battle between Damien and God from afar reached a critical point. Damien, utilizing his defense, Golden Rabbit Sandal and the skill Golden Flash of Light, swiftly closed the distance between them, surprising God from afar. In a swift movement, Damien plucked some of God from afar's hair, causing him to shout out in pain. God from afar, in a mixture of anger and disbelief, questioned Damien's actions, calling him a psychopath. Damien maintained a serious tone and offered him one final chance to apologize, urging him to think wisely and consider his actions carefully. However, God from afar responded angrily, questioning Damien's sanity and expressing his refusal to apologize. But before he could finish his sentence, he experienced a sharp pain and realized something was wrong with his heart. Damien, with a smile on his face, remarked that the effects of his actions were indeed quite effective. Holding a voodoo doll in his hand, Damien asked mockingly where he should stick it. God from afar, filled with horror, asked Damien what he was doing. Damien, with an evil smile, responded that it was quite obvious, it was God from afar's own body that he was manipulating with the voodoo doll. SEO Hyun and Hyun were reflecting on recent events. She asks if that was God from afar who had been launching a series of arrows and what has happened, but now there was an eerie silence. Suddenly, a piercing scream startled them, and a notification appeared, showing God from afar's diminishing HP. Observing the situation, SEO Hyun expressed her concern about God from afar's rapidly decreasing HP. The group realized that something was wrong and feared for his life. Gel Punisher voiced his frustration, questioning what was happening. Hyun added that if things continued this way, God from afar would meet his demise. SEO Hyun decided to investigate the situation firsthand, disregarding Gel Punisher's advice to think things through. She refused to stand by and watch God from afar die without taking action. Gel Punisher pondered the situation, wondering if SEO Hyun was thinking clearly. He acknowledged that God from afar was a strong player and unlikely to be easily defeated by another user. The rapid decline in his HP indicated the presence of a formidable adversary. Soon, they received a notification stating that hostility was detected from a user. The notification further indicated that the user's strength was immeasurable, signaling a dangerous opponent. They were surprised to learn that Damien's strength couldn't be quantified. Gel Punisher, still concerned about SEO Hyun's impulsive decision, reminded her of Damien's impressive accomplishments, including single-handedly defeating the Great Wolf King. He cautioned her not to underestimate Damien's capabilities. However, SEO Hyun paid no heed to his words and instructed the group to prepare for battle. She requested buffs from Selling Heel, who readily agreed. God from afar screamed in agony, bewildered by the pain coursing through his body, wondering what Damien had done to his body. Damien taunted him, questioning if he was curious about the source of his suffering. God from afar, filled with anger, glared at Damien and muttered curses. Damien, wearing a malevolent smile, revealed his sinister plot. He explained how he had used God from afar's hair to create a doll that represented him. According to Damien, the pain inflicted on the doll was mirrored in God from afar's own body. God from afar dismissed the idea as utter nonsense, still in disbelief. But to demonstrate his power, Damien cracked the doll's arm, and instantly, God from afar's arm twisted in tandem, causing him to cry out in agony. Damien relished in his control over God from afar's body, taunting him further. Damien wondered what else he should do, and with the most evil smile in history he pointed at the doll's crotch area, wondering what would happen to it. Ladies and gentlemen, watching this act itself is a low blow. Please do not do this to others. Use this as a last resort method. Now back to the story, insinuating another potential act of harm, leaving God from afar horrified. Overwhelmed with fear, God from afar desperately pleaded with Damien, grasping his legs, and begged for mercy, offering anything in return. He apologized profusely and begged for a chance to redeem himself. However, Damien ignored his pleas for mercy and simply said goodbye while he smiles happily and heartlessly flicked his finger at the doll, indicating the end. Damien observed God from afar, who had collapsed while clutching his injured crotch, expressing disappointment that he had passed out so quickly. He sat down beside him, lightly touching him, and questioned if he was truly dead, reminding him that his HP hadn't reached 0. Suddenly, a voice commanded Damien to stop, causing him to turn around. SEO Hyun and her team had arrived at the scene. SEO Hyun urgently ordered Damien to move away from God from afar. Selling Heel expressed concern for God from afar and asked if he was alright. SEO Hyun assessed the situation, observing God from afar's state, and concluded that he was still alive, albeit barely conscious. Damien assessed SEO Hyun and her party members, recognizing them as intermediate-level players likely connected to God from afar in some way. He wondered why God from afar had been so confident and realized it was because he had a party supporting him. Curious about their affiliation, Damien asked if they were party members of God from afar. In response, SEO Hyun glanced at Damien, and a notification appeared, indicating that Damien's strength couldn't be measured. She swiftly ordered her team to prepare for battle. Damien received further notifications, revealing that SEO Hyun considered him an enemy and warning him about penalties in case of death. Frustrated, Damien questioned the meaning behind these developments, realizing that the opposing party might have discovered his own strength, putting him at a disadvantage. More unfortunate notifications followed, informing Damien that the effects of his skill, Dark Green Blessing, were vanishing, and his stamina and mana recovery had paused. He realized he had depleted many resources during the previous fight and needed time to let his skills cool down. Attempting to initiate a conversation, Damien suggested they talk first. However, SEO Hyun forcefully silenced him, labeling him a murderer and accusing him of killing numerous users. Damien realized that the situation was not going as smoothly as he had hoped, as he thought of them as not being agreeable. Damien interjected, asserting that it was actually their party member who was in the wrong. He claimed that God from afar had demanded he drop all the items obtained from the Great Wolf King, along with his own equipment. Damien believed his actions were justified in response to God from afar's demands and suggested that they should take responsibility for their party members' actions. He insinuated that they might have ordered the attack against him. Indignant, SEO Hyun denied the accusations, vehemently stating that they were not the kind of people who would engage in such behavior. Suddenly, everyone's attention was captured by God from afar, who had regained consciousness. He pointed his hand at Damien, leaving SEO Hyun to question his intentions. Damien recognized the arrow in God from afar's hand and realized it was a baby arrow, causing panic to spread across his face. Damien realized that he wouldn't be able to evade this attack and might need to sacrifice his arm. However, before God from afar could execute his attack, foam started foaming from his mouth, and a notification appeared, stating that God from afar had logged out. Damien received a notification indicating that he had committed PK. Damien, holding the doll with a pierced head, expressed his unintended actions, claiming he hadn't meant for it to happen. SEO Hyun responded with suspicion, accusing Damien of causing God from afar's death using spells. She believed that he had intended to kill him from the beginning. Selling Heel expressed his disapproval, stating that he shouldn't even be considered human. Damien looked at them in disbelief and tried to explain that it wasn't his intention, but SEO Hyun silenced him, dismissing his words. She ran towards Damien, declaring that there was no need for further discussion and that he could make his excuses in hell. Damien contemplated his options as he equipped his wild boar helmet, realizing he had no choice but to face them. He regained his HP, and the cooldown on his skills had ended. He activated Blood Impulse, Flame Banquet, and Dark Green Blessing, preparing himself for the confrontation. Damien confronted SEO Hyun and warned her that they had started the conflict, reminding her not to beg for mercy later. He attacked her with his knife, but the healer cast a buff called Axolethio on SEO Hyun's sword. She successfully blocked Damien's heavy attack, leaving him in disbelief that such a thin blade could withstand his strike. SEO Hyun smiled and taunted Damien, expressing disappointment in his abilities. She questioned whether he had been going around killing other users with his weak-ass skills. As SEO Hyun continued to order the healer to keep buffing her, the healer cast various buffs such as Restore, Divine Aura, and Lux Gloria. Damien observed the situation and realized that there was no chance of winning unless he eliminated the healer first. Before Damien could further strategize, SEO Hyun dashed instantly and swiftly attacked him using the skill Undue Trois. Damien managed to block her attack with his knife, but he was taken aback by the advanced swordsmanship displayed by SEO Hyun. Damien noticed that the paladin was collecting all the buffs such as Will of Solidarity Reduction Armor and Shield of Trust as well, and realized that it would be extremely difficult to defeat them if they were heavily buffed, leaving him with only one choice. He thinks of the choice as SEO Hyun asked him where he was looking at. She rushes in to deliver the final blow, but with limited options available, Damien swiftly took out an elixir and threw it on the ground, forcing SEO Hyun to back away for a moment, while causing a thick fog to envelop the area. SEO Hyun looked around in surprise as the fog surrounded them, making the voices of her teammates calling out to her become faint and unclear. A voice calls out to her saying hi. Just as she turned around, Damien appeared behind her with a sinister grin and informed her that she was now trapped within the fog.